Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce presents the Bowie Business Journal, a program designed to keep our community informed about important business and economic issues.
Hello and welcome to a special holiday edition of the Bowie Business Journal. I'm your host, David Emanuel. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. And with me today in the studio are two special guests. We have Vikki Kalitsi, President of Visiting Angels, appropriately enough for the holiday special here, and a familiar face to many of you, Kelly Pierce, former Executive Director who also worked with Visiting Angels, and we'll talk about that very soon. And thank you both very much for being here for this episode.
Thanks for having us.
And Vikki, right off the bat, I just want to know a little bit about Visiting Angels. People might not have a clue what that is. It's a very special program that you're heading up.
Certainly. Visiting Angels is a non-medical home care agency, and we employ caregivers who come into the home and provide services such as hygiene assistance, meal preparation, light housekeeping, medication reminders. We assist our clients into outings into the community, such as doctor's appointments, picking up prescriptions, or going down to the senior center. So we look at ourselves as an extension to the family.
That's terrific. And mostly, do people find out about you through word of mouth, or others that have gone through Visiting Angels or who have used Visiting Angels as a program? Or how does the word get out there about you?
The majority of the people that we serve are from word of mouth. We've been servicing the community since 2001. And since that time, we've grown a reputation throughout the community. But we also have referrals from discharge planners from hospitals, geriatric care managers in the community, and like we mentioned earlier, word of mouth.
That's great. And it's local chapters too, I understand. It's across the country as well, right? Is that right? Visiting Angels is kind of, can you talk a little bit about that too, about
Sure.
Headquarters from?
Visiting Angels is a franchise, so we have over 400 locations across the United States. It's franchised in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Our particular location was probably one of the very first Visiting Angels. Well, we were the second one here in the state of Maryland. Wow. So we came in at a very early time with the franchise, but they've grown significantly past the past 14 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then Kelly, how did you hear about this, or when did you get
Sure,
involved with
yeah. Even before I was with the Chamber, I was aware of friends who had been referred to them and used them, whether it was to provide care for the person who was ill, sometimes as a supplement to hospice, in a couple cases I can think of, and it was real apparent that they not only help the person who's not well, but they're also very helpful to the caregiver that's in the family, if there is one, a spouse or a child, in allowing them some free time to leave and have some time to clear their head and go get their hair done or go to the grocery store or have lunch with a friend. It's a real good service to the family. It helps everybody who's involved. And then when my own mom was sick, although there's three of us and we were all real active in my mom's care, it just helped to know that somebody was there at night to spend the night, and that somebody was there to make sure that she had meals and had her medications on a regular basis, because we were all working full time, and certainly got there every day, but this was just to supplement the care that the family was giving in that case.
And you bring up an interesting point, Kelly, and we were talking about that earlier, Vikki, before we started the taping, about how it kind of is a supplement to hospice, like it sort of prepares you for that. Can either of you talk about that, like when it gets to that point?
Yes, sure. Usually when hospice comes in, it's a very limited amount of time that they can provide to your loved one. They come in with specific tasks, comfort for your loved one. They'll have a nurse and the chaplain comes in, but it's usually 1 hour that they'll come in. Okay. With having Visiting Angels come in, we're there up to 24 hours. So we provide that supplemental care when hospice is there or when hospice is not there, because we work together as a team.
That's great. And that's what you...
Yeah, so hospice was, in our case, more of the medical, knowing that the nurse would come several times a week to check on medication and check on her care, but Visiting Angels was more getting the meals prepared or getting some laundry done or the beds changed, more the housekeeping type of things that we needed help with.
What I thought was fascinating about it, when I was reading about some of it on the websites, was the fact that, and we were talking about that as well, the fact that the hours are what the people want, which is huge. Like, it's not what time are you going to be there. Can you talk a little bit about that, Vikki? People expect, oh my gosh, what time are you coming? But
exactly. And when people ask, what time are you coming, we ask, what time do you need us here? Because we know that this service is one where we have to work around the family's needs. So the family sets their schedule. They determine the number of days that they would need someone to come in and how often they would like for someone to come in. And once those decisions are made, then we take over with developing that care plan, making sure the times that you need us there, we're doing what you're expecting us to do.
That's fantastic. That probably floors them. They're probably they're ready to listen to what you're going to tell them to do. But the fact that it's they're setting the whole schedule, that's fantastic.
That's correct. You know, if you think about it, a lot of times when we're providing, when we have family members that are sick that need, you know, some type of service, we're very overwhelmed. It's not just taking care of your loved one, but then you may have family at home that you're taking care of. You have your job that you need to focus on. So we allow you that peace of mind while you're at work or when you're out with your kids or when you're with your husband, knowing that the meals are being done, the medication is being taken, if there are doctor's appointments they're getting there.
Especially now during the holidays, I'm sure this is very rough and a busy time for the angels as well, and they're probably more needed than ever.
It truly is, because you know a lot of times you see your family members around the holiday time, and from the last holiday you saw them up until this point, you notice a change or a decline in their status. So that's when our phones start ringing, you know, after Thanksgiving and Christmas, after seeing mom and dad and noticing that they need some assistance in the home.
That's fantastic. What impressed you the most, Kelly, with this? Was it just the fact that they're coming to just do something like the laundry, which helps so much?
I mean, it was the fact that I would say first and foremost, you know, Vikki and everybody who worked there are just all so kind and compassionate. They go out of their way to make sure that they're fitting in where you need them.
That's great.
You know, I didn't need somebody to be there sometimes first thing in the morning because I could get my mom up in the morning, get her dressed, help her bathe, you know, kind of get her day started. But then it was more in the middle of the day when we were all at work or when we had things going on, knowing that somebody would be there, even if she was napping in the afternoon, just knowing that the laundry got done, that some supper got made, that somebody was visiting with her and talking with her, just all really super people that work for her, that they give family members some peace of mind. I know when even before I used them for my mom, one of my real good friends who was my mom and dad's age, her husband was sick with cancer, and she didn't want anybody coming in and helping. And I finally talked her into at least talking with Vikki, and it let her 2 or 3 mornings a week just get out of the house and do what she wanted. Just because if you're the caregiver, there's so much pressure with that of wanting to make sure everything gets done and that it gets done right. But if you can get comfortable with somebody else coming in on a very limited basis, just to give you a break.
Some of the
means so much.
Yeah, so many people have said that sometimes that it can be twice as traumatic on the caregiver sometimes because they're so stressed and worried about getting everything right, and just to clear your mind sometimes is what you have to do.
And she just really needed some free, you know, this friend of mine, she needed some free time, and she needed to still go once a week and get her hair done. Or she needed to be able to go have lunch with me or one of her other friends once a week. So, you know, the scheduling of it, you know, she knew that these certain days they were going to be there from 10 until 2, and she could get out for a while. And it just made such a difference in her attitude. And you get away from therefore becoming frustrated or impatient with the person you're taking care of, because you don't want to get to that point. You need those breaks to maintain your sanity in a very difficult situation.
You know, that's absolutely true. You know, I always say that a lot of times we think that the care is for the person we're in the home providing the services to. Many times it's for the family member, so that they can get out and, like Kelly mentioned, go get the hair done, you know, go have lunch with a friend.
Have some peace once in a while.
Yeah, even going to the doctor's appointment. You know, a lot of times we find that the care recipient, the family member, is outlived by the person that they're taking care of. So at Visiting Angels, we try to preserve the caregiver, because we know that while we're in the home, it's very limited. We might be there for 4 hours a day, but the family still has 20 hours a day. So we want to make sure that they get out and get that respite that they need.
So there are times that you would step in, Vikki, or one of the angels would say, we recommend this. Like, so there are times that you're going to sort of tell them in a polite, like, we feel we might need to come an extra hour or something like that to help you.
Exactly, because one of the things we do is, we're not I call it a set it and forget it, put a caregiver in the home and then you never see us again. Over the years, we realized that although we're non-medical, a lot of the things that bring us to the home are medical conditions. So we've decided to hire 2 full-time nurses. We have 2 RNs on staff. And their main job is to develop the care plan, which basically outlines what needs to be done for the client, how it needs to be done, and how often it needs to be done. And that nurse also works directly with the family and the caregiver to make sure that services are being delivered as expected. It's not just about what Visiting Angels does, but it's about what is it that the family needs. So when we go in, we look at the whole person. And we may see that this person may benefit from having some meals delivered, or they may benefit from having a physician come into the home, or maybe it's an extra hour. But we look at the person as a whole, and we look at what resources are out there that they may not have to come out of pocket for, that we can bring into the home to help supplement what Visiting Angels and the family is doing and work as a team.
Was there some specifics there, Kelly, that you knew right away, like look at what they're doing, like that you knew you needed or might not have even known you needed and they provided? Or
Not specifically in my case, but certainly in other cases of knowing that they could, arrange to have meals brought in through the county meal program, or and it made me think too, we've talked about coming into the home for care, which I think is probably predominantly what you do, but recently in dealing with assisted living with my mother-in-law, and again, not that it applied to her, but others there, sometimes even in assisted living, the staff can't give you all the time and attention that you need as a resident in assisted living, so some people hire Visiting Angels for some additional help there. The staff at assisted living is good about getting everybody out for the meals, but maybe somebody really needs help feeding themselves, or need some extra care in bathing themselves. They supplement, I think, in that type of setting as well. And I think that Vikki and people with this agency, she's aware of all the resources. And has certainly been very involved on a county level with the caregivers organization, and now on the state level as president.
Well, I'm on the board of directors for MGA.
Yeah, for the Caregivers Association, for this, and knowing, I think when you're in that kind of position and run that kind of business, knowing what all the other resources are, so you can help people to the most efficient level. You can help them have all the resources they need to make their life easier when they're going through this, whether it's the patient or the family.
And along those lines too, Vikki, what Kelly's talking about, the training then, obviously it's all levels of training for the Angels. Do they go through the same set of training? Do ones are, more of the ones that say would just come in and do the meals, or are there levels that they go through or that they have to go through, or can you talk about that?
Certainly. We have 3 different levels of caregivers. We have home health aides, we have companions, and we have certified nursing assistants. And depending on what type of service you need, maybe if you just need the meals or some chore services in the home, you may receive a companion. But when you require more skilled care, then a companion can provide, then we'll bring in a certified nursing assistant. But we also train them in things like palliative care for someone who has chronic illness, chronic pain. We help them, we teach our caregivers how to provide comfort in the home. We also train them on dementia and Alzheimer's. We see a very high incidence of that disease. So our caregivers are trained to assist families in that manner.
What got you, I didn't even ask you that up front, what got you involved in all of this, Vikki? Was there a personal story there, or was this just something you always wanted to do and just get into this type of field?
Well, I got into it, I had a 6-month-old child, and I did not want to go back to work. And I wanted to find something to do. My background was healthcare administration. Home care was very new. And it's something that, quite honestly, I kind of lucked up on. And I look at it as my calling, because as hard and as difficult as the work is, it's something that I truly enjoy.
That's wonderful.
So
that's wonderful. What do you find too is the most joyful part of it and the toughest part of this?
I guess the most rewarding part of this business is helping families, being able to provide resources that they may need, you know, even if it doesn't pertain to visiting angels, but just getting them the services that they need and the resources. And the most challenging part about it is, you know, you can't help everyone.
Right.
And not everyone qualifies for some of the resources that are out there.
Right. And can I ask this question, Kellen, if you want to answer that as well? Is it difficult, too, that the person that's coming in, the visiting angel, sometimes that the person they're going to care for can be kind of stubborn? Did you have to face that? Is it a sign that, uh-oh, I really don't want the help? Do you go through that a lot? Did you have to go through that, Kelly, or was, you know?
I did. You know, I think that it's hard sometimes for family members to get to the point where they realize that they need
Sure.
help, even when people around them may see it.
Suggest, right.
I think it's hard sometimes because the patient may not want a stranger
Exactly.
in the picture. In my case, my mom was really open to it and really
Great.
wanted somebody to be there at night. She just didn't want to be
That's
home
great.
at night by herself. And so we arranged to have care there. And then it got to the point where it was 24 hours. So it was a 12-hour nighttime and a 12-hour daytime. And she was always very comfortable with that. Even though she was in Bowie and I was close by, she just needed that presence of somebody in the house
Right.
with her
Right.
all the time. So it was a blessing that she
That's
didn't.
wonderful.
She wasn't at all opposed to it or disagreed with the
Okay.
idea of doing that
Okay.
and bringing it in.
Okay. Do you then, like if you see some of those situations where you want to help so much, but it has to come down to obviously what the family wants, like if you see a situation where obviously a visiting angel would be a wonderful help and support, you've got to sort of step back. That's got to be tricky when you probably have seen so many cases where, oh, we want to be there, but, you know, can you talk how you handle that?
Exactly. You know, a lot of times when the families call, usually it's a call that's initiated by one of the adult children that, you know, mom or dad needs help. And especially when you have a husband and wife living together and they kind of coexist together, it could be difficult to go in. But you have to show them the value of having someone come in.
Sure.
Because a lot of times they'd much rather have a family member come in.
Right.
But having this same person, we allow the families to meet the caregivers before services start, so that they have an idea of who's coming in.
Okay, we'll get back to that in
They
a
have
second.
an
but
idea
yeah.
of who's coming in. They can meet them before services start and have buy-in. If I bring someone and they're not comfortable with that individual, we'll get someone else. I believe that it has to work for you.
Sure.
They're coming into your home. You have to be comfortable with it. The hardest part is getting started. And a lot of times once you start, you get the right person in there, then you ask yourself, why didn't I do this thing sooner?
Are there different ways you even do that first start? Like sometimes if you're dealing with a certain individual, is it best to be one-on-one angel with the person you're caring for, let them be, let the family go away? Is it, you know what I'm saying? Or do you have the group sit there?
It varies. If a person is able to make their own decisions, then sometimes it's good to have that one-on-one. If the family is reluctant to it. But, you know, it's always good to have another set of ears there when having the discussion. So I never advise anyone to just meet with me alone. I always say, you know, bring a family member, bring a friend, someone who is objective, that may be able to ask me some questions you may not be thinking about. Someone just may be thinking about getting someone in, but not thinking about long-term, what does it mean to have someone in the home.
Exactly. And I know that's something like going back to a former guest on the show of Jackie Bird, who's one of our members as well, who always speaks about, you know, the importance of taking care of the caregivers, of having everybody together, of making the decisions as a family and not letting everything just fall on one person. Did you want to speak to that, Kelly, a little bit?
Just, you know, it lets somebody stay at home for as long as they can possibly stay at home, and hopefully if they want to be at home when they pass, that's what happens. And I think that's important. And I think also the issue, just because I'm a big proponent of it, and especially after going through this now with parents, the whole idea of long-term care. I mean, long-term care after, you know, whatever your period of time is, helps cover the cost of this. So, you know, you need to think about having those things in place before you get to that point.
That's right.
You know, it's less expensive to buy it the younger you are, and it's there as a benefit when you need it, whether it's for several months or it's for a longer term. It's important to to think forward on some of these things, much as none of us wants to talk about.
Exactly.
You know, the day coming where you can't take care of yourself, and a lot of people don't want to rely on their family to do all that if they're married and have jobs and have small children. And you know, you need to think about it while you still have your wits about you,
Right.
and are
Exactly.
able to make certain decisions about how your care will be if you want to stay. You know, we talk about aging in place and being able to
Right.
stay at home, even if you're sick and not well and not able to take care of yourself, or have chronic pain or things that help you from doing that keep you from doing the day-to-day things. You know, this is an option that lets you stay at home with good care.
Right.
And oftentimes, if you have the proper insurance in place, it's paid for, so you don't have to go into your assets to make that happen.
Exactly. And long-term care gives you a better quality of life.
Right.
You
Right.
know that your insurance will pay a certain number of hours per day, and that will be taken care of. And when we have long-term care clients, you know, we will bill on their behalf so that they do not have to worry about paying us and then being reimbursed by the insurance company. I've seen people, you know, who have long-term care and who do not have long-term care. And if you don't have long-term care, you really need to consider getting it. I had one guy tell me, he says, Vikki, I looked into long-term care and it will cost me $300 a month. I said, how much are you paying us a month to take care of your mother 24/7? And when I said it to him that way, he thought about it. $300 is nothing.
It's nothing.
You know, and it's just like car insurance. You buy car insurance anticipating something may happen. You do not buy it when something
When
happens.
something happens, is exactly right.
So it's the same with long-term care. Get it? The younger you get it, the cheaper it is. And when you need it, it's there.
It pays so much toward the bills. And so, you know, in addition to the caregiver and the family, as well as the person who needs the care, having to worry about money,
Exactly.
you know, you might have to worry about the money for the 30 or 60 days or 90 days until it kicks in, because most of them have a period of time in the beginning.
Right.
But at least you don't have to worry about the money. That
Right.
should be the last thing that
That's
you're
right.
worried
Because
about.
there's enough worry already in everything
With
that you're dealing with
everything
in this,
else.
in this
Exactly.
situation.
Yeah.
So you tell them that. That's great that they're told that
Exactly.
up front, because I always say sometimes some people don't know they don't know. They're
Right.
not even aware that they would need to do something like that.
Exactly.
Also, when I look at the site, I mean, tons of praise for what Visiting Angels has done, and just the support and the help that they've given. Again, what do you think that's testament to? Obviously, it is such a wonderful, unique thing, but what for you personally, you know, when you see those wonderful comments from people, you know, locally and then from across the country for different ones, what does that mean to you, and what do you?
We take great pride in it. You know, I always say that we do not hire someone just because they want to be a caregiver. A caregiver is hard work. A lot of times it's thankless work. You can feel unappreciative. But, you know, the right person does this type of work. You know, you have to have the passion and the compassion for,
That's excellent.
and I always say, and a heart to serve. And when we are looking for caregivers, those are the attributes we look for. Everyone can come in and be licensed, you know, have CPR first aid, but not everyone has the personality, the temperament, the character to do this type of work. And when we're placing a caregiver in the home, we look at personality,
That's right.
temperament, character. Oh, and then by the way, they're a CNA CPR first aid. You know, because
Right.
you need that in order for it to work.
Right. Right. Excellent. And again, you've been in this how long?
13 years.
13 years.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Excellent, Vikki. Excellent. And then Kelly, any final thoughts too about just the whole?
No, just, you know, I think that's it. I mean, they're kind and compassionate, and they want to do everything they can to make not only the patient's life easier, but the family and the caregiver, you know, whether it's somebody who's living there or it's children who are living outside the home but need to know that their parents, you know, it's just having that peace of mind that you know somebody's there that cares and is watching after them.
That's exactly right. And again, the contact information will appear at the end of the show. And again, Vikki, and last question I always like to ask too, if I remember to ask it, is anything we didn't talk about, or something that you'd like to share, or something about Visiting Angels people also might not be aware of, or any other support you want to
Right. Well, you know, as Kelly had mentioned earlier, we go into the home, and the home is assisted living. It could be your personal residence, but we also provide sitter services in the hospital. So when mom or dad goes into the hospital, you still have to go to work, but you still want to make sure that they're being taken care of and they have an advocate there. So Visiting Angels will go in and provide sitter services and be there to provide that extra assistance to your loved one if it's needed.
Fantastic, fantastic. Excellent, excellent. Well, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday season and a joyous and prosperous new year. And Vicki, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for being here. And Kelly, of course, it is always a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you very
And we will
much.
see you on our next edition in 2015 of the Bowie Business Journal. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you and see you soon.